7,300,000,000 people on this planet, and I am the organic response. You are the organic response to this tyranny. I'm not just going to just be programmed by television and think I watch ESPN all day while our own government funds Al-Qaeda and ISIS worldwide and tries to start a war with Russia as they devalue the dollar. I saw them coming after the Second Amendment, taking farmers' property that I knew outside Austin to turn it over to groups to then build on it later under the guise of environmentalism. I got angry. And I'd already studied so much history that I recognized exactly what it was when I saw it. Flaming totalitarian, scientific, anti-human garbage. Scientifically deployed. And you could just see the total preparation for an authoritarianism. As William Binney, the number 4 at the NSA, blew the whistle just last Sunday. In fact, I want to reprint that article. So I'm doing a taped interview after. I want to bring it up with the person that's going to be in here after the show with me for a taped interview. Very interesting talk we're going to have. I'm not going to announce it until later. But he said, no, it's a total plan for total social control, for total totalitarianism, total domination. Kept using the word total. Total population control. Totalitarian mentality. I mean, look, bad guys are in control. And they always want world domination, don't they? They're going to make it this time. Why? They've got the NSA. They've got the Predator drones. They've got the social engineering. They've got ESPN. I want to go to your phone calls right now. Margaret, Anonymous, David, Brian, Richard, Joseph, Zach, Matt, Bruce, Bob. We're going to all of you. Margaret, you're the first caller today from North Dakota. Welcome to the airwaves.
Hi, Alex.
Welcome.
I wanted to talk about everything that's going on in Russia and the Ukraine.
Go ahead. My
brother is married to a lady from the Ukraine.
Lucky man.
And her family's all still back there. And I agree with you about a lot of things, but I know a lot about what's going on in the ground in Ukraine. And the people that rose up when this all first started, they rose up to get rid of Yanukovych, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Because he was one of them people that was stealing money out of people's bank accounts. He was also pushing them towards like Russia rule, and they wanted freedom. They wanted what.
Ma'am, I totally get that. The issue is George Soros is capitalizing. I mean, I know all the different parties involved. The West is basically sees themselves as Europeans. Western Ukraine, mainly Catholic. They were pro-Nazi. I'm not saying they're bad people today, but they were allied with the Nazis in World War II. The East is mainly Russians, and historically has been part of Russia. And so both sides have bad past. One of them Stalinist, the other Hitlerian. And the State Department spent $5 billion. I mean, I can play the State Department in a briefing admitting that a few months ago. In fact, will you cue that up? Saying they spent $5 billion to destabilize Ukraine. So I'm not saying there's not real beefs here. The issue is it's part of a larger destabilization program of the entire world. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I've also heard that the Ukrainian military is the one going over the border into Russia, and that's not true. It's the Russian military from the very beginning has been coming over into the Ukraine.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, the Russians did grab their military base, their gas lines, and any government would do that. And it's only Crimea though. But I mean, you know, we've seen the Ukraine shelling into Russia. So what I'm explaining, ma'am, is it's different perspectives here, but the globalists are behind it, exacerbating it like it's two cocks in a fight, two roosters. I know the two roosters don't like each other. I get that.
Hi, I'm Dr. Edward Group. Today I'd like to talk about the war on women. You've experienced and heard about the benefits of super male vitality. Now, the new formula has arrived. Introducing the new Super Female Vitality. I have specifically designed this formula to help the body naturally regulate itself without the use of artificial hormones. Key ingredients chosen from the highest quality sources. Each of these ingredients works synergistically with the female body in order to maximize overall vitality. You've heard the reviews and the feedback on how the original Super Male Vitality has revitalized relationships. Now, both the man and the woman can have the revitalization in their own bodies with Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality. Secure your Super Female Vitality today from our limited stock at InfoWarsLife.com.
And Senator Feinstein, quote, the U.S. is now at Cold War levels with Russia. So a new Cold War with Russia has turned into a hot war while Russia has reformed itself and their stock market's up, our stock market's down. And on a global index of freedom, Russia is rising, we're dropping. It's just totally sick. And it's all because the Russians, with other countries, because the Federal Reserve is devaluing the U.S. dollar, are moving away from the dollar. For years, they begged us not to keep destabilizing. People don't want depressions, but the globalists do. Here's RT. Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz, who's a U.S. citizen and worked in multiple administrations, including Obama, praises the $100 billion BRICS bank created to counter Western dominance. And Joseph Stiglitz has been on the show 5 times. And when he quit in 2002, we got the documents first with Greg Palast of the BBC. We broke him here because the BBC wouldn't let him put him out. They had a D notice to stop it. It was published in newspapers all over the world, one of the biggest stories we ever had at that time. Thousands of pages of documents got released, and it was the bank's plan to create a global depression in the next decade or so to bring the world into world government and how they were going to do it. And Stiglitz, to his credit, came out and said, this is immoral, let's not do it. He claims he didn't leak the documents. But the point is that we need competition. The dollar's being devalued, folks. The elite here are doing it. And then other people are trying to create something new, and so they're threatening war with them. We're going to take your phone calls right now. I'm going to move quickly from David to Brian to Richard to Joseph to Zach, Bruce, Pete, Bob, Anonymous, and others. David in Texas, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, a long-time listener, first-time caller. Met you briefly at a gun rally in San Antonio. I'm an Army vet. One thing I wanted to bring up that I haven't heard you mention is I read an article the other day stating that the plane downing was actually an attempted assassination on Putin. That he was flying home from the World Cup in Brazil. He knew his coordinates, where he was going to be, and his version of Russian Air Force One looks similar to the Malaysian.
Yeah, in fact, if we type in the headline, Malaysia crash was attempt to kill Putin, it was in state-run media. If you look at his plane, it's white, red, white, and blue stripe. It looks about 95% like the Malaysian 777. It's uncanny. But, I mean, again, that's speculation. No one knows. Only Western media is allowed to speculate. Then it's called, speculation. If I speculate, it's called a conspiracy theory. And, they have the Boston Globe and the New York Times attack me last week on Friday for daring to say, why was it flown through controlled airspace when no other aircraft were allowed to for 2 months? Of course, that's a fact. Yeah, the London Guardian reported on it as well. In fact, scroll up at the top there, and I will give folks the headline so they can look. That's RT. Reports that Putin flew similar route as MH17 presidential airport says hasn't overflown Ukraine for a long time, but the flights were near there, but not in that area. But it does look just like Putin's plane. In fact, it's really uncanny. From the ground, you would think it was the same aircraft. I mean, look at the tail. It's just wow. I know this. Within 2 minutes, the State Department said they thought it was Russia. Within 15 minutes, they said that only Russian missiles could shoot down planes. And every channel within an hour was saying, here's the missile, Russia did it. So that's a little suspicious, too. What does your gut tell you about all this?
The only theory that makes any sense to me, because the Russians wouldn't have any motive to down a commercial airliner. They know that would foster ill will towards them, and it would be counter to their objectives. But it makes total sense that that's controlled airspace. And like you said, it's like finding a dead body in your apartment, and the police already know what the murder weapon is without even looking at the body, immediately. It's kind of the analogy that I'm thinking, where the plane was downed, and then, like you said, within minutes, they're already naming the kind of missile launcher that was used. They said it was a Buk missile launcher.
And then CNN would go, with known former CIA people and generals would go, this is the Buk. It's very scary. It's the only one that can shoot down planes. There's more than 100 known SAM missiles out there. 100 different types. Dozens of countries produce them. But again, it probably was Russia. They said we're going to shoot down any aircraft that enter this area who are bombing civilian targets. And then NATO just goes, oh, really? We run the air traffic. We're going to direct planes right through there today. It's just unbelievable. It's Lusitania 2.0. What do you think?
Gulf of Tonkin, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, any of a series of false flags. This fits perfectly within that construct. And it's definitely something that's going to lead us to World War III. I was a combat engineer in the Army. I was stationed in Germany. I have several friends. I had a friend in the Army who was an active duty soldier who was from Russia. I still have communications with him on Facebook. He's back in Russia now. But he agrees with me 100% with my assessment of the overall situation, because he's actually living on the ground in Russia and sees, what the anti-globalism that's there. It's kind of like Russia is now embracing the spirit that this country used to have. It's like Putin has become more American, a traditional American than we are, than our own president. You understand what I mean? Well,
Alexander Solzhenitsyn had about 170 IQ. He was one of the greatest writers ever, and he endorsed Putin before he died. And the U.S. didn't believe it and sent the ambassador there to have dinner with him. And he was like 88 years old then, writing at his table, and said, listen, it's nationalism. Your New World Order set this up. You put the Bolsheviks in. I've met with the top Russian government. They've decided not to kill all the Russians and go with your eugenics plan. Solzhenitsyn wrote books that were like my show, okay? And again, so I don't want to say the Russians are getting all their understanding from me. Their anti-communist icon literally sold a bunch of the Russians on, and there's a battle by the old Soviets as well to recreate the Tsarist system under a Soviet communist model again. But there's a battle by libertarians over there, just like there's a battle here. Ron Paul says we shouldn't have war with Russia, and they're reforming and things. They're still not perfect. The West attacking them is pushing Russia into a totalitarianism. So I'm not endorsing Russia. I've never been there. The point is that they're making reforms that we don't have here. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that there's a lot of people in this country that wish we had a leader who spoke 5 languages and was a black belt in multiple martial arts and was actually asserting the traditional alpha male role of a leader instead of being
instead of trying to teach 5-year-olds how to have gay sex?
Yes, exactly. That's my point exactly. I see them embracing the traditional American
That's because they hit bottom after 80 years of communism. They found out what it's all about. They went there, so they're desperately trying to embrace their Russian culture, John Wayne, whatever you want to call it. And we're sitting there going, oh, we know you're really communist. We know you're dirty. We're going to have a new Cold War. While our government funds Al-Qaeda, lowers the borders, tries to screw up our kids. Absolutely. It's sick. It's sick.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
By the way, the latest Snowden documents that the NSA admits are accurate is that the ISIS leader is U.S., British, Israeli intelligence officer. I mean, that's public anyways. They didn't give them Stinger missiles because they weren't working for them. People are like, well, what are you, anti-Israel? I don't know, is Israel anti-Israel funding al-Qaeda groups? See, that's the issue here, is that it's not Israel, it's not the U.S., it's criminal elements that have decided, well, we'll use any group we can to destabilize things. What, Iraq, a government that was elected, put al-Qaeda in to kill every Christian they find? This is evil stuff, folks. Let's go ahead and talk to Brian in Pennsylvania. I'm going to move quick now. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Alex, I got some bombshell news for you.
Go ahead.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's a trucker, and we were listening, because I called him on the phone, we were listening on the CB, and they were talking about martial law sign in the back of this one guy's truck. Yeah, the other guy that was behind him, they were in a traffic jam, and they didn't believe him. So guy's like, well, we're stuck in traffic, so I'll show you. And 5 minutes later, the other guy gets on the CB, and he's like, holy crap, I don't believe it. It's actually true. There's martial law signs in the back of this guy's truck, front to back.
Yeah, I appreciate your call, Brian. I've been on the air since 1996, and I get that call about 10 times a year, and it's an urban legend. So are guillotines that are in a traffic jam wreck. The guillotines fall out the back of a truck or train. I think that's a psyop that's put out so people don't recognize real martial law when it comes down the pike. People repeat it, but it's also a seminar call to Patriot Radio. They're not going to call it martial law. They're imploding the border now. It's called Rex 84, declassified 1986. Our reporters were just down there. Secret FEMA camps being built on the border. We've been breaking national news every week on this. We proved the Border Patrol is shipping the illegals in under orders, giving them vouchers that forced the New York Times to admit it, okay, when Drudge carried our story, drudgereport.com, the Infowars.com article. So all the real stuff, the Emergency Centers Establishment Act, the Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program, all declassified public plans to put you and your family in forced labor camps. I don't know if they're going to implement them. Looks like they're moving in that direction. You'll be at the Library of Congress, Army.mil, with the names I just gave you. But instead, other talk show hosts will follow a story like that, claim I said it, and say it's been disproven. So that's the issue. They're not going to call it martial law. They're going to call it civil emergency. And that's what the purposeful implosion of the border is about. Notice it's all happening. Gaza, the Middle East takeover, ISIS, Ukraine, China threatening Japan, North Korea, the border collapsing, the dollar being devalued, the BRICS summit. The whole world's lining up right now for a big change. And the globalists are saying, you're going to stay under what we've been doing or we're going to cause World War III. Who's up next? Richard in Oregon. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Hey, I just wanted to touch on what the last caller said about the domestic preparation for the martial law. I'm in the Oregon Army National Guard. I'm a Staff Sergeant Medic, and I have never seen the level of preparation that we have thus far. We just purchased a $1 million MASH unit city and 6 mobile chemical decontamination units in order to travel throughout the United States. And when we're on a financial drawdown right now, we haven't been able. We've been saying bang, bang, bang instead of using bullets, and it's real stuff. And I tell my soldiers every day when I'm talking to them about what's going on and how to keep their mind right when they start telling us to load people into camps, but they just laugh at me.
Well, absolutely. So let's give folks documentation. London Guardian, 2 weeks ago, Pentagon preparing for mass civil unrest, social breakdown worldwide and in the United States. Boom. Let's go to the next article here. This is out of the AP. The cost of the American police state. Hundreds of billions have been spent to militarize our nation against terrorism threat that barely exists, because if you go to the real training, it's all for the Tea Party gun owners. It is the Vichy French takeover model. Folks, print me a Vichy French definition or encyclopedia. I want to tell people about the French collaborator government with the Nazis. It's not the Nazis, though. It's the mega banks, the globalists, who are offshore on their yachts, who run the government now, and the Homeland Security is their client Vichy takeover army. Now, Homeland Security people are the second most awake group. Military, former military, Homeland Security, then police are not our enemy. Because they hear this show and they get chills, they know it's true. And thank God I'm 40 and been doing this for 20 years and no more now. Because I used to just yell and scream at the whole thing. The last 5, 6 years, I've clicked that, whoa, these people, even though it's an evil institution, they are afraid and know it's real. So they're our friends on average. We need to reach out to them like the folks did with the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was when the citizens started reaching out to the Stasi and the military instead of just being scared of them and having courage that they said, no, you're right, and stood down. We need to be hitting them with the truth and hitting them hard because they care about their families too, folks. This is really happening. Let me just show you some more of these headlines here. War gear flows to police departments, New York Times. Battlefield, USA. American police extensively militarized, ACLU. Nashville police stockpile weapons of war. Marine Corps colonel. Homeland Security building domestic arming. By the way, he's here today to do an interview after the show with us that we're going to be airing in the next few weeks. We're going to do like a documentary and show all the documents with him. So this is it, folks. This is it. This isn't a game. And if you hesitate and deny it's happening, the globalists will win. If we affect the battlefield space in the info war now, make it an info war, they'll never get to the physical war. 90% of war is propaganda now. Our propaganda is better because it's truth-based. Theirs is weak. It's lie-based. Go ahead, sir. Anything else? He's gone. All right, Joseph in North Carolina, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, I'm a Prison Planet member. I wanted to tell you, I used to be a newspaper reporter, and I'm really sensitive to coverage, how things are covered. And when you watch the way this thing has been covered, the story started out being the crash of Malaysian 17, and within a half an hour, they had changed it to the shoot down of Malaysia 17, and already had images they put up, and theme songs that were already obviously prepared ahead of time.
No, it's just like the babies in the incubators that was a lie and Gulf of Tonkin. It's pre-prepared. Anybody in media or anybody in advertising recognizes a rollout, pre-packaged, premeditated. Yes, sir. So that's what you think from working in the news.
They immediately started saying that they didn't know who did it. Within about 20 minutes, they said the Russian separatists did it. And then they switched and said, well, the Russians must have done it because the missile system's complex and the separatists didn't have the kind of knowledge you would need to operate the missiles. So they
tell you what, stay there. I'm going to come back to you. Don't hang up, Joseph.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
Every time a country tries to go on the gold standard or get out of the dollar, the big European banks that control the private Federal Reserve note tried to attack them. And look, I would be for keeping the dollar as the world reserve because we benefit from it. The globalists are ending all that. That's what people are trying to get out of it. They're destroying our power to bring in the EU mega government after that. This is all public. At the Davos, Switzerland meetings 2 years ago, they said 100 trillion every decade in global taxes on all nations paid to the private IMF and World Bank. And you'll have a digital card and a digital mark biometrically to buy and sell. That's not the Bible. That's the London Telegraph. So, I mean, you think it's bad now. We've been conquered for a long time. I mentioned the Vichy French. It's the best analogy I know of. People wonder why the Nazis were able to conquer France, who beat Germany in World War I and who took over most of the world under Napoleon. Finally, the French stopped liking war after that. How they did it in just a week and a half? Because they were only fighting the British Expeditionary Force that was there. And they ran them out at Dunkirk. The entire general staff basically was Nazis or had been paid off and were promised the entire south of France and the equivalent of trillions of dollars. It was billions then, billions of French francs, to go along with the takedown of France. And their military stood down. And that's part of history. Vichy France. Okay? So if you want to know what the globalist model is, it's corporations, the elite, buying government off, setting up the UN, the New World Order, the system outside, tax-free, tax exemption for themselves. It's the same deal. But it's not Nazis. It's the globalist. And our government's not Nazi. To use the Hydra analogy, Colonel Craig Roberts, wrote the book, The Medusa Project. He described it as a Hydra. We got to get him back on, by the way. And he said at the elite levels, his family that's high-level CIA, that they call it Hydra. That's why when I went and saw Captain America, I was so freaked out because, I've been hanging out with him, all over at events and things over the years, and he would tell me all this stuff about, the octopus or Hydra, and that's what it's called, actually. So even in the CIA, they call it Hydra. And most people in the system have joined Hydra, folks. I mean, you have to understand that. That's why the whole world's scared of it. Because they got people in China, Japan, Mexico, the U.S., Russia. They're everywhere. So it wasn't that like in Captain America, where Hydra's only Nazis. No. Hydra was the eugenicist British Empire model that actually put Hitler in power and then set him up. And then they took 35,000, 36,000 top Nazis, and they ran almost every university, NASA, Goddard Space Center, CIA, Rand Corporation, everything. That's why it looks so Nazi, that we have German-style helmets and black uniforms and Homeland when it was Reichland or the People's Land. Because they adopted a Nazi template for the government. For the people, it's a communist template. It's very sophisticated, folks. I said I'd go to your calls. But let's go back to Joseph in North Carolina. You made some good points about this all being pre-scripted, obviously. Any other points?
Well, think about it. They originally announced the Russian separatists did this, and then Ukraine conveniently had telephone intercepts that showed that the Russian separatists were not only stupid enough to shoot down a commercial passenger plane, but also stupid enough to brag about it on the telephone, on an unencrypted telephone, knowing that the NSA scoops up every phone call in the world. So, and then it went from not just the Russians' fault, it's Putin's fault personally. And now Putin is being described not only as the Russian leader, he's being described as the new Hitler.
That's because a Solzhenitsyn mole got in the Kremlin. Can you imagine how freaked out the New World Order is right now?
They're trying to describe eastern Ukraine as the Sudetenland.
Oh, I know. I saw the New York Times say Putin is the new Hitler when it was Crimea that fought Hitler. I know. It's incredible. Where do you see all this going? Where do you see all this going?
Let me say one more thing. I think you're wrong when you say that there's danger of nuclear war. It may happen accidentally, but I don't think the goal of this was the nuclear war. I think the goal is what Dianne Feinstein said, that it's Cold War II, and they're getting that started. And then I think we ought to follow the Watergate rule of follow the money. And I think this is really aimed at breaking up the BRICS, because if they can peel away India, Brazil, and South Africa from the BRICS, they will have destroyed the BRICS and prevented a challenge to the Western financial system.
I agree. And listen, I was not saying there'll be nuclear war, but it's in the cards. I mean, this is a very dangerous game the globalists are playing. And let's expand on that. The globalists are anti-Western. And the Russians are adopting something proto-Western that's Russian. So my whole issue is the Russians are just trying to survive, folks, and trying to de-escalate. And the globalists want to destroy them, just like they want to shut off our power plants and dumb our kids down and teach them 2 + 2 = 5 and do all this stuff. I mean, that's the issue here. But we're not fighting an evil Soviet Union this time, put in by the globalists. It's epic. Things are so epic. Things are so epic right now that I wish the average American male knew about geopolitical things like they knew about football. And our problems would be over very, very quickly. I mean, I can't quit reading about it and studying it. Friends and family are over, and I'm just at the computer just, oh, look at this, oh, look at that. Just trying to learn about this because it's so incredible. I spent 4 hours yesterday tracking the original cable of Alexander Solzhenitsyn a few years before he died, 5 years ago, meeting with the U.S. ambassador to Russia. And the cable had a lot more than was in The Guardian. And I got to do a whole show on that. with Solzhenitsyn saying, how dare you put the Bolsheviks in? How dare you want to, kill all our people? And it's just incredible. Alexander Solzhenitsyn figured it all out, but I figured it out too, because I was told all this stuff by the Liberty Movement, who was all former military, former CIA people that weren't traitors. Everything the John Birch Society said was true, folks. Just every stinking shred of it was absolute, just 100%. And now we're down to the line here on this. And I'm not saying that Russia's good now. It's just that they're not going along with the New World Order's agenda. Let's go ahead and take a call here from Bruce in Canada. Bruce, you're on the air. Go ahead.
How are you?
Good. I'm good. Go ahead.
Good. I'm wondering, given the state of the administration the way that it is right now, do you really think that Chairman Gowdy has even a snowball's chance with the Benghazi hearing coming up? And then furthering that towards the IRS hearings, I see Gowdy as a rock star. I just really admire the guy and how fierce he is in there, and I'm saying a prayer for the man. I really hope that he.
Well, I know that they're really pushing for more wider hearings, and yes, this is all a distraction from Benghazi, from all the other scandals. Again, just like it allows Putin to become more tyrannical if he wants, just to survive, or if he wants to, by the West putting pressure. His polls have never been higher. See, war is the health of the state, because then we won't complain as much if the government's trying to start a war. So that's why this is just so bad. Where do you think all this is going?
Oh, it's a mess. I've been to Russia several times, and I got to tell you, they look up to Putin. They really admire him, which is, the exact opposite of what's happening in the U.S. right now, where, the way everybody feels about Obama. I mean, I've heard you say it on your show that, Putin's going the right direction.
Zach in Texas, you're on the air. You're stationed in Hawaii. You want to share some military view on what's currently happening? Go ahead.
Yes, Alex. I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. I've been listening to you since I was probably about 18 years old. But anyway, I just want to express my point of view just as an Air Force member. A lot of my friends listen to your show. A lot of us support you. We are prepared to stand down against this freaking atrocity going on against our Constitution. I just wanted to let you know that. And
I know the military is just almost completely awake. I think the establishment's overplayed their hand. What do you think?
I do believe they have. They don't know what they have on their hands right now. That's why I do believe they're trying to start this World War III or Cold War, whichever it comes to. Because
that'll get people in line. I mean, let me tell you, a war breaks out with Russia. You go along with it or you get arrested. I mean, this is going to get really bad, folks, because it's an internal coup against the country. They want to start a war to get us to go along with it. Oldest trick in the book.
Yes, they want the military to fall in line, go ahead and ship off the war so they have less resistance when the Homeland Security, everybody else comes in to declare martial law. They just want to get us out of the way. That's basically what I view this as.
That's right. They're moving weapon systems, jet aircraft troops into Poland, into Ukraine. I mean, this is just crazy. And then magically, in a no-fly area, this passenger plane goes through. And I think the Russians probably shot it down. They said, all right, you're bombing cities. We're going to shoot everything down that comes through here. And then, oh, really? We're going to direct passenger liners in there. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And it's sick. And again, I'm not lionizing the Russians. It's just that who started this? George Soros a month ago bragged to the New York Times that, quote, he was behind this. Well, he's a big part of it. I wouldn't even give that piece of garbage, all the credit, but it's just sick. The same guy that wants our guns, the same guy that's behind the borders being open, he brags about that. He's behind the group that got those borders opened and advertised the illegals to come up here. I mean, these people are breaking our country down. They don't want any countries, not Russia, not America. They're globalist. They're conquering us, and I'm sick of them. God bless you, Zach. Say hi to the folks there in the air wing. Bob in Texas, you're on the air. Go ahead.
What a privilege it is to be on with this Alex Jones one more time. the fellow that I met up at the Austin Gun Show on sovereignty, remember?
Hey, you're that old preacher, aren't you? I remember you.
No, just a minute. You got the wrong word. You called me that at that day, and I corrected you 3 times. Do you remember what I said? You were in your house the last couple of days ago.
I know. I was thinking about you just the other day. Go ahead and make your point. We're almost out of time.
Okay, you were calling on God to help with the situation, and I said, look at Hebrews 9, the sovereignty, and see if there's any relation.
If we will seek God's face and repent and ask God to help us change our wicked ways, He will heal our land.
That's why the call screener told you I referred to that. You Alex Jones, saying that the churches are the Satan's army, or the army of Satan.
They are.
Now, what I wanted to say was, you don't do that kind of talking when you go to New World Order. When you're on the New World Order subject, you make sure the document is allowed to speak for itself. Now, my question is, 3 years have gone by, and why is it that Hebrews 9 cannot speak for itself? We ought to have callers calling in who want to tell you about this Hebrews 9 passage, and we can get their questions, and we can have the others that are calling in to answer their questions, and you'll get a demonstration of your no church people, no preacher people, but they got a one-on-one with their maker. And that's the only way.
No, I agree. These state-controlled churches will never say we should repeat, we should repent, we should repeat what our ancestors did and get on our knees before God and ask for guidance. It's just worship the church, do what you're told, praise God the world's getting evil. That means Jesus is coming back. These churches are abominations. Good point. I totally agree. My dad has said that over and over again. Hebrews 9, we need to repent. Between us and God, and I do that all the time, and I will do it. I will get Hebrews 9, and on the show tomorrow, I will do that, sir. Okay, I appreciate your call. Run to that guy a couple times. Anonymous in Florida, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, Alex. I'm a long-time listener, been listening since 2006, and I'm actually from the Dominican Republic. I'm just calling in to give my point of view on the whole immigration thing that is going on, and a couple of tips, like, to do like a show about it. Basically, I've been here since 2012. I came in, I was 16 years old, and now it took me 7 years to become a citizen, but I made it. There's a way to do it, and what is going on is not right. So what I wanted to suggest is, I know Leon made a report about it, but do one that explains it from the beginning, like how they actually start. I think it has to do with the Dreamers, right, the Dreamers Act. But explain all the way down to what it is, with the FEMA camps. Where are they going to put all these people? Probably the FEMA camps.
Well, they use it as a cover, beta test it on the immigrants, make it as hard as it can to get here legally, show you'll be illegal, so the Democratic Party and Acorn and others can then be the only venue for you to survive as an illegal. It's a totally evil plan, and I agree with you. We need to reach out to the folks and try to wake them up to what's happening, because the plan is to implode the country, not help the immigrants.
Definitely. Yeah, and like I said, it takes time, it is hard, but there is a way to do it, and there's something, it's on purpose. Like I said, I'm from the Dominican Republic. Over there, the same thing that happens in all our, our countries down here. Basically, they buy off the politician, they sell out the country, with these loans of austerity, and it's like on purpose. And that's what they're trying to do.
Well, imagine if Dominican Republic opened your border to Haiti and then let all them vote. I mean, what would that do to your country?
Yeah, exactly. The same thing.
Wreck it in a matter of months. I mean, it is a total plan, because the globalists don't live here now. They've moved on to Switzerland. I appreciate your call. Great points. We did find the verse. We'll put it up on a screen, and I will read from it. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. And it's even stronger in the King James Version. But if my people, called by my name, will humble themselves and repent. That's why I'm so into being humble. That's when your brain works, folks. So when I tell you how successful we are in the liberty movement, it's not to be arrogant. It's to say, hey, we got a chance to win this, but only by being humble. And then you're not insecure anymore. When you're humble, you're actually strong. When you're on a mission, you're strong. It's not about us, folks. It's about everybody together in humanity. In fact, let's go to the King James Version here. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. All right, let's go to another caller. I got to move quick now. Pete in Washington, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, man, can you take off the shirt so we can see those man boobs or something?
You bet, brother. That's a good subject to bring up when I'm being so serious here, you know, to sit there. But you know what? I'm insecure now. I'm really upset over the fact that you said that about me. I'm going to crawl in a hole and cry all night right now that I have giant pectoral muscles. Oh, boy. Have you ever been able to squat 600 pounds? I don't know, but I'm not even into that. I'm a humble person. Let's talk to Jeremy in Kansas. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeremy. We're almost out of time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yes. On the nuclear point, there's a very interesting data coming out of the Sandia Labs on Veterans Today about the exact nuclear micro-nukes that were used on September 11th. But I want to address the main issue now of the connection between the Malaysian flight over Ukraine and the Gaza incursion. There was a 15-minute window of similarity there. That strikes me as not a coincidence. And then if you look at where that flight took off from in Netherlands, that's a key Mossad Europe base. And if there was anything being involved in terms of like electronic hijacking or a bomb on board, rather than
Sure. I mean, that's all speculation, but I'll tell you this. What isn't speculation is 4 universities, 1 in England, 3 in the U.S., people can pull this up, tested the isotopes and did find the isotopes of small atomic weapons at the World Trade Center. It's actually true. It's actually true that radioactive isotope from super small atomics were there. And I don't know what to say about it. It's beyond crazy. I'm out of time. Lisa from FEMA Region 1, formerly Massachusetts, you got 20 seconds. Take us out.
Hey, Alex. Long-time listener, first-time caller. But I just wanted to make the point that every single talk show this morning had the same talking heads, and they were all trying to blame Putin for what happened in the Ukraine.
That's right. Absolutely. We got to have war with Russia. Forget our criminal occupational government. Great job, crew. See you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central.